Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Running Through Podcast YouTube page. My name is Justin Horniker, and today I want to talk about abuse in coaching. Not necessarily a happy topic, but something that's been kind of on my mind a lot as someone in the coaching profession, something that's been talked about a lot in other sports as well. So, just to give you a timeline of why this has been on my mind so much. First, you had the Mary Kay and Alberto Salazar allegations, which were then corroborated by other past Alberto Salazar athletes like Amy Yoder Begley and other Alberto Salazar athletes. People, Kerry Goucher, people I corroborated the things that Mary Kay was saying. Then, a couple weeks ago, Mike Babcock of the Toronto Maple Leafs was fired. Allegations came out that he forced a rookie at time, speculated that's Mitch Marner, to list his teammates that he thought were the laziest, that didn't work hard enough. And he gave lists. He said, and then he would say, I'm at the bottom of that list. And then Mike Babcock, then under the premise that this was for the rookie, or Mitch, whatever you want to assume, that this was for him to internalize, to realize, okay, you said that you need to work harder. That should have been it. However, Babcock would go on. He would drag in the people who Mitch named as the laziest players on the team, told them what Mitch said, and I guess an attempt to, I don't know what the purpose of that is, but it's something that is verbally abusive. There have been now countless claims from Babcock's time in Detroit coming out about things he've done. Then after that, allegations came from Calgary coach Bill Peters that he was using racial slurs, or he used the racial slur against an athlete when he was a coach in the minor leagues in the locker room, and then that he was physically and verbally abusive to athletes on the bench that have been corroborated. And it's kind of been a snowball from there. So I know I'm usually talking about track and field and athletics, but I think this topic has a broader audience than that, because track and field coaches, the X's and O's are different, but motivation styles, the way that you command a room isn't any different than it should be with other sports. So a good basketball coach, if he had enough time to learn, the art of running, the art of coaching athletics, would probably be a good, Steve Kerr would probably be a good track and field coach too if he went down that path, if he understood the X's and O's as well. But that just got me thinking about my experiences. I put out a tweet the other day just kind of talking about this. I had 6 coaches from my freshman year of high school to my post-senior year of college. One was a mentor to me, a father figure to me, someone who really took me from going down a bad path and put me on a good path. Someone I owe a lot to, that I have a ton of respect for. My next coach in high school, after Coach Banty stepped away, my senior year of track, was someone who allowed me to have a lot of ownership in my training, asked a lot of questions about how I was feeling, really taught me a lot about coaching theory that Coach Banty wasn't necessarily as good of. Coach Banty was more of I wouldn't say X and O's guy, but he was definitely more of a motivator, more of a person. I don't know. He had a good read on people, and even though coaching wise, I didn't necessarily understand what he was doing at the time. Looking back on it, I get a lot of what we were doing because resources of a cross country team, being at small school, things like that. So while X's and O's, high school wise, I didn't necessarily have the best coaching in that aspect. I had really good coaching as far as a really good experience. I loved my team. I loved my coach and athletes. That should be what you ask for out of high school. However, along the way, I've definitely heard stories about coaches that yell a lot, coaches that run their athletes into the ground and don't ask questions, coaches that have inappropriate relationships with underage girls and boys on their teams. There's this, I think it's universal across all sports, that you have a authority figure who is relatively unopposed, who has a lot of their own time with the athletes on the team, and if they're a bad actor, there's not a lot to stop them, especially as a high school athlete. You're not in the place to tell a coach no. And they talk about this, moving back to the hockey conversation. Talk a lot about, you're not really in the place as an athlete to tell a coach, no, you can't do this. you can't really stand up to him because the coach can bench you, the coach can limit your playing time, the coach can kick you off the team, and especially if the coach doesn't really have a background, if the coach wants to say, yeah, you're being insubordinate, you aren't listening, you're a bad worker, you have a bad attitude, who is everyone going to listen to? The kid with the perceived attitude problems or the coach? So moving on to high school, or moving out of high school into college, I had 4 coaches in college in my 5 years. It was a revolving door at a small school. My first coach seemed like a good coach, X's and O's wise, but was verbally abusive. In one workout, I wasn't running very well. I was crashing the workout hard just because I'd up my mileage. I just wasn't feeling good. And I remember going up this hill, and like as I'm cresting the hill, he says, "Don't be a fucking pussy. You're crashing this workout. Don't be a fucking pussy. You're being a fucking pussy." And I remember that vividly. Like that's affected me pretty hardcore. It was just words in the moment. After that, he didn't talk to me after the workout. Didn't talk to me much all week until I had a good race the next week, and then he resumed his coach-athlete relationship. People like that, that's the verbal abusiveness that I think is rampant in coaching, that is emotionally manipulative, is not good leadership. After that year, he went and left to another school, and I think he had a bigger view of himself than what he actually had. When the other school hasn't been as successful as he talked himself up to be. And that one's stuck with me for a while. I haven't talked about it a ton, but I did not have a good freshman year experience. Going into sophomore year, I had a great coach. Came in, taught me all about training, taught me how to take ownership of my training, taught me what good training theory was because no one had really explained that to me before, even though I'd been curious. Had, conversations with me like a human about how I felt at certain mileages, like what my thoughts are on certain things. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that experience. Taught me a lot about coaching. It really laid that foundation. That was also the first year I had a breakthrough running wise. So I went from being a pretty bad Division III runner to being a mediocre Division III runner. But I think that was the year I ran my 1500 meter PR until senior year. So I ran 4:07 or 4:11 in the 15 that year. And I had a really good year, had a really big breakthrough. The next 2 years, I had my most influential coach. And she, again, taught me how to take ownership. She taught me how to care for athletes differently, like how to individualize certain things, how to get the most out of athletes emotionally without berating them, right? Like she could be tough when she wouldn't be tough, but you never felt personally demeaned, which I think is what we're looking for out of coaching. So what I want for as an athlete out of a coach is I want to feel like I'm respected, a respected part of the team, but also feel like I'm not the expert here. I want to be able to listen to my coach without feeling like, they're talking down to me. I don't know. She had all of those things without naming names because I want to keep this video somewhat anonymous. But it was my best experience in college those 2 years. I ran my best times. That was when I ran 4:05. That was when I was kind of going through my emotional burnout and anxiety issues, and she was very good with that. And I think without her as my coach, things might have went down differently, but because she was kind of in tune with the athletes, she noticed certain things that was going on. She asked the right questions, and I was able to kind of take her lead and go get help. And that speaks to the broader conversation of who I am as a person. But without her as my coach that year, who knows what would have happened if I would have even been able to recognize what I was going through. So unfortunately, she left. She was offered a better job, so she was no longer at that university. And then the coach that came in, who I ran my 5th year under, who I was the assistant coach under, was absolutely terrible. Someone who I don't think was vetted enough before he came in. From what I hear from past athletes, I think he lied about how much he had in certain programs, how much influence he had. Could not read an athlete, wasn't really a good coach. I had an athlete who was gay, and he was very homophobic towards him. And in fact, the reason he was eventually fired was because he said a homophobic slur towards that athlete. And it's something that could have been avoided because there is a long history of, I guess you call it abuse as well, verbal abuse, but just saying things that were very insensitive to college athletes. And especially we would go to the AD and things wouldn't happen. We'd go to the AD and things wouldn't happen. So when you have people going to the higher ups and no action is being taken, then eventually you have this big thing that happens and it could blow up in the face of the team, in the face of the university even. Fortunately for the university, things were taken care of. He's no longer there. He's no longer coaching, which is good, because I don't want anyone else to go through the experience that I went through as an athlete of his, as a assistant coach of his. Because even as assistant coach, the things that he would say offhandedly just tell you how like terrible of a person he is. So all this to say that we need to change how we accept people into the coaching ranks, because it's one thing to know X's and O's, but it's another thing to be able to motivate people, to be able to lead people, but also to be able to respect your athletes. And especially when you're talking about working with kids, really, high school athletes, college athletes, you're in charge of their development. There needs to be mutual levels of respect there. Coach-athlete relationship is built on trust. It's built on respect. And it's when that trust or that respect is broken, then the athlete, then the marriage, the covenant between the coach and the athlete is not repairable. And when you don't feel like you need to earn the respect from your athletes, I think that's what we see in the Alberto Salazar case. That's what we see in a lot of these head coaching cases, these things of abuse that are coming out. It's because the coach isn't trying to earn the respect of his athletes, or it's not something he's done in the past that's earned the respect of his athletes. He's demanding respect. And when you demand respect and you feel like because you're the coach, you're authoritative about it, that's when that relationship is inherently broken. It's never going to work. And eventually these abusive antics are going to come out. And I'm glad that we're in a place now where that's not okay. It used to be that what's happened in the locker room in athletics wasn't what happened out in the real world. So it like stays in the locker room. This is locker room talk. This is in the room talk. But now that we're seeing these things come out, we realize how effed up a lot of this is. So if there's one thing that I can say, again, I'm going to plug the Save Sport documentation below this video, because I think that's something that we just need to be more aware of. But also, we just need to be better at vetting coaches. So for any ADs out there watching, any parents out there watching who are looking for coaches for their athletes, we need to be better at understanding what makes a good coach, and understanding that being a good person plays a lot into it. And understanding that some people are really good bullshitters. So we just need to have something that fixes the system, because right now it's incredibly broken. Let me know your thoughts. Comment below. Sorry, this is a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be. But let me know how you'd fix that system, because I think personally, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So many more cases of abuse are going to come up that just haven't been addressed yet. But let me know down below. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you liked what I had to say, or if you didn't, I don't care. And subscribe if you want some more videos coming your way. I'll be coming out with a couple more things this week that aren't necessarily this heavy, let's just say. So hope you guys have a good one.